Hello everyone, my name is Emilie and I am a DAREarts program facilitator in Toronto, Ontario. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through how to make your very own bracelets using upcycled materials you can find around the house. I'm very excited to show you how to make these because they're personally one of my favorite activities and a really cool way to reuse materials. I'm going to be showing you 3 different patterns in this video. One's called the braid, then the spiral, and then finally I'm going to show you how to make one called the diagonal. Alright, let's get started. Alright, first things first, let's start with the materials that you are going to need to make your bracelets, starting with the fabric that you're going to be upcycling. So when you're looking for the right kind of fabric to upcycle, try to find things that have lumps, bumps, ridges, holes, tears, or take a look at this item, for example. This is a good example. So this, see these little bumps here? This kind of fabric wouldn't be able to be donated. So ideally you try to find this stuff because you always want to give back to your community when you can. But when you can't, and this normally would end up in the landfill, that's the kind of material you want to be upcycling into your bracelets. Also take a look here at this example. I actually wouldn't use a dishcloth or something like this that's knitwear or has these lumps and bumps in it, because when you cut it up to make string, it's going to have these weird frays that are going to fall apart as you braid. So I wouldn't recommend anything like this, and try to stick to these kind of old shirts or sheet kind of cloth material when you're making your bracelets. All right, the next thing you're going to need, oh, and don't forget, you can actually be using string or anything like that as well as an alternative to your fabrics. So you can take things off of old bags, anything like from a cloth and stuff like that too. But remember, you want to try to have the same size when you're braiding. So you're not going to take something from an old shirt and mix in with this unless you cut it really fine, or else you're going to get these really weird bumps and ridges in your bracelets. All right, next you're going to need your scissors to cut everything up, of course, and then you need something to pin down your bracelets. So you can use classic tape, you can use a pin and then pin it to your pillow or something as you work, or you can use a stack of books, which I like to use sometimes, just really heavy, to pin down your bracelet as you're working. All right, if you have everything there, you're ready to go. Let's start with our first pattern. All right, so for the braid, you're going to need 3 colored strips. I'm going to take one from each color. So I'm going to take a blue, I'm going to take a purple, and I'm going to take a pink. And then for every bracelet, there's a bit of a starting routine, and that is creating a knot at the top, just to keep your bracelet in a straight line, pinned down. And at the end, it's also going to just make it look really clean when you tie it onto your wrist. It's also an opportunity to leave a little bit at the end for yourself, and that's going to be for you to tie the bracelet onto your wrist. So if you've never done a basic knot before, what this looks like is you're going to cross the fabric over and make a little bit of a loop. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit here, and that's for the knot at the end. And then here's the rest of your bracelet. From here, you're going to take the smaller bit, you're going to flip it underneath the loop, and then you're going to pull it through the hole. From here, you're going to adjust the knot for wherever you want it along the bracelet. You kind of have this opportunity to pick where you want it to go. And I'm going to leave about half a finger's length of fabric, so that way at the end I can tie it onto my wrist. Next, I'm going to tape down my bracelet. And again, you can be using your books, your pins, anything you want to keep it in one spot. And we're going to do that at the beginning of every bracelet. That's kind of our routine there. So for the braid itself, how do we get started? We're going to spread out our fabric into a big triangle like this on the outside, and then a line down the middle. From here, we're going to take one side, fold it over the middle strip, and bring it into the center of the other 2. And then I'm going to reset it into the original shape I had with 2 strips on the outside and 1 down the middle. I'm going to do that again now on the opposite side. So I'm going to take the pink, I'm going to cross it over the blue. Now it's the new middle, and then I'm going to reset my bracelet. And I'm going to keep doing this over and over again. So now you can see that the purple is on the outside. I'm going to bring it into the center of the pink and the blue, reset. And then I'm going to take the blue, cross it over the purple, and then I'm going to reset. And I'm just going to keep doing that over and over again until I get to the end of my bracelet. Now what I like to do when I'm making fabric bracelets like this is I like to add words or phrases to the fabric as I go. So that way when I wear the bracelet, I remember these thoughts that I had while I made it. So for this bracelet, I'm going to say that the purple one says that I am strong. Because I think that's something I need to remember right now when I'm at home. Sometimes I forget that I can be strong during this time. So the purple one, whenever I braid it over, I'm going to think about how I am strong. Then for the pink one, I'm going to think about how I am creative. I'm going to fold that over there into the middle. And for the last one, the blue one reminds me a lot of DAREarts. So when I fold this one over, I'm going to think about how I am excellent, because that's something that we always tell ourselves at the end of every class, is how we are excellent. And I'm going to keep doing that over and over again. So the purple, I am strong. Pink, I am creative. Blue, I am excellent, into the middle. And we're going to keep doing that all the way to the end until you're happy with the length. And then like you did at the start, you're going to tie a knot here at the end to finish off your bracelet. So again, you're going to loop, make that little loop there, and then you're going to bring the little ends through the hole and tie that knot at the end. And here we go with our braid. Now this one's a bit loose. Sometimes I like to make them a lot tighter, but it's all about how you feel comfortable with the fabric, how you can move it quickly in your hands, tighter or looser, however you want it to look. And that's our first bracelet. Just to show you what it would look like here, this would be the tighter version of this braid. Here we are on our second bracelet pattern. For this one, like the first, you will need 3 different strings. So I've again picked pink, blue, and purple. And with this one, the pattern is a bit more flexible. So you don't have to start with the order you want them in. There's only going to be one color going at a time. So I'm going to start with the pink, and I'm going to put the blue and the purple here together. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something that we're going to do for every bracelet, which is I'm going to make a number 4 knot. And the first move is to make a number 4 with the strings that you don't want in the middle and the pink that you want showing on the outside. Then you're going to take the tip of the number 4, loop it underneath the other 2 colors, and pull it out through the hole with the string. And then you're going to pull it all the way to the top of your bracelet. And I'm going to do that a few more times, because what's going to end up happening here at this point is I'm creating the length of the pink that's going to show up on the bracelet, creating that number 4 knot. So again, taking it across the other 2, pulling it through the hole and up your bracelet. And then to create the spiral, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over the other 2 and then mix it back in. So you can't really see the pattern yet with the spiral, but in person there's a bit of a bump starting to form. You're going to better be able to see it on the camera in a second. Next, I'm going to choose to do the blue. So I'm going to pull it out from the other colors, side to side, and then I'm going to create that number 4 knot again. So I'm going to come across, through the hole, and up my bracelet here. And then I'm going to do that again, the same number of times I did it with the pink. So I did it with the pink 4 times, so I'm going to do it 4 times here again, just so that the pattern's even. And one more time, again, number 4, cutting across, pulling the end through the hole underneath the other 2 strings, and tight to the top of the bracelet. And then loop it over when you're done to mix back in with the other 2 colors. Now I'm going to take the purple on the outside, and I'm going to create the number 4. Now what you can already see is that the purple turned out to be a very different fabric once I started cutting into it than the blue and the pink. It's not as stretchy and it's staying a little bit more thick. That thickness won't really show in the bracelet, but the stretchiness will affect how long I can make the bracelet. And so I might just choose to use the purple a little bit less in my pattern. So I might do pink, blue, purple, pink, blue, purple. It's up to you how you want your pattern to go. For now, I'm just going to do a purple and see how it turns out. So I'm going to do that number 4 again, coming through the hole, pulling nice and tight. And already I can see that I'm going to have to do a few less knots to make it the same length as the other 2 on the bracelet. So I'm only going to do 3 knots. And you can see now that these colored chunks are now the same length, so I'm only going to do 3. And then again, remember, loop it over the top to create that spiral. So now what we can kind of see is that these little lumps are starting to show on the edge. That is the start of your spiral. So as I go down the bracelet, you're going to see that the spiral starts to go around and around and around. And just to show you with the colors in my hand, it's going to start to look like this with your knots. It's just going to start to spiral like this. And any way you can encourage it to spiral, the better. So if your bracelet starts to twist in your hand, that's a good sign to just keep looping the string underneath like I did at the end of every color. It's just naturally going to twist. And that's the really fun part about this one, is it kind of lets you know when it starts to spiral. Okay, so unraveling here, I'm going to go back to the idea of making maybe a little bit less purple and a bit more blue and pink. And I'm going to reverse the pattern just for fun. So I'm going to do some blue now. So taking the blue out, across, and making my number 4. And so similar to the first bracelet, I want to add a little bit of a phrase to each of my colors, and I want to make this one about leadership, keeping DAREarts in mind. So I'm going to go back to the pink for a second, and the pink one's going to be a representation of how I am a leader at home. So as I make the pink one this time, I'm going to think about all the ways that I can be a leader at home. So for me, making this video, for example, is a way that I can be a leader at home. And by staying home right now is a way to be a leader. So I'm going to do 4 knots here with the pink, thinking about all the contributions I'm doing from home. Next, I'm going to pull out the purple, and I'm going to let the purple represent how I can be a leader online. So as I make these number 4 knots here, I'm going to think about all the things I can do to be a leader. And that could be maybe doing a social media post. Maybe that's making your own video at home. You can make one of these too and put it on social media. Okay. So think about what you've already done or what you could do to be a leader online. Last, I'm actually just going to break my pattern a bit here. I'm going to revisit the blue, just to add a little phrase for us all together here. And keeping in theme, we all remember what's the last one. Blue is going to be, how can I be a leader in my community? Or how am I already a leader in my community? So as I make some knots here with the blue, I'm going to think about what I have done so far. And my example here is that on Thursdays, my partner and I actually go out into the courtyard here in my apartment building, and we lead everybody from their balconies in a sing-along. So that's something I really like to do for my community. But maybe there's more I can be doing. Maybe I can be leaving notes from my neighbors just saying, have a good day. There's lots of things I can be doing to encourage other people to stay positive during this time. So as I'm making the pink, I'm going to revisit how I'm a leader at home. Just changing up the pattern here and there. It doesn't have to be the same. It can be whatever mix you want. And then maybe just for fun, I'm going to revisit the blue again, thinking about how I'm a leader in my community. And you can see here, if I make 2 knots, that's going to break the pattern too and make a much smaller chunk, which might be fun depending on what kind of pattern you want to do. And just to revisit one more time, I'm going to do a few knots with the purple, thinking about how I am a leader online. All right, and there we go. So I'm going to keep going, creating this pattern, thinking about how I'm a leader at home, online, in my community as I braid. Let's get on to our last bracelet. So for this one, unlike the other bracelets we've done so far, you're going to need at least 4 stripes of color. What I like about this one I've discovered before is I actually really like working with the blue and the pink fabrics the most that I discovered. So I'm going to line it up here in the order of blue, pink, blue, pink. And that's going to be the pattern of the diagonal in my bracelet. I recommend having at least 4 because if you have 3 like the other bracelets, you're not going to really get to see that diagonal as much. but you can definitely go more than 4. So if you want to have a rainbow pattern, if you want to have multiple stripes, you can do more than 4 once you see how this pattern works and you're more comfortable with it. Okay, so first I'm going to start, as I did before, on the outside of my bracelet, and I'm going to make it my number 4, but I'm only going to make it on the pink stripe. So here, I'm going to do it once here, and I'm going to do it twice. And I found that the tape I'm using right now, I'm actually struggling a little bit just to make it tight. So I've added these books up here to help me with making my stripes a little bit tighter. Okay. So now I've made 2 knots on the pink. I'm going to move the blue over to be beside the other blue string. And I'm actually going to do 2 knots again, making that number 4 shape on the blue, pulling nice and tight all the way to the top. And I'm going to do it again now on the pink, making that number 4. And I'm going to pull it nice and tight all the way to the top of the bracelet. So remember, starting across, going across, making that number 4, pulling the end through the hole, and all the way up to the top of the bracelet nice and tight. So the first pass kind of looks like a blob, but that's okay. That's very normal because you're setting up the thickness of your bracelet, so it's going to look a little bit clumped. But once you start getting to go on your bracelet, it's going to become a little bit thicker, a little bit more obvious what you're doing. So now I have my pink, blue, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Starting on this side, I'm going to take my pink across, doing 2 knots on each of the strings. I'm going to pull all the way up nice and tight. I'm going to do it on the pink, nice and tight. So again, taking it across, making that number 4, taking it through the hole, all the way up to the top. And by now, if you've tried the other 2 patterns, pulling up all like that way, making tight knots, making that number 4 will become a little bit easier. So now you can kind of start to see that there's something forming here. It's not so blobbish anymore, which is pretty exciting because that's going to be the stripe pattern there. And here I go again. I'm going to start with the blue on the outside, making number 4 knots across my bracelet on each of the strings. Keeping it in theme with the other bracelets I've made so far, I'm going to also include a phrase for each of the colors. And this time I'm going to make it into a wish for my mom. I actually want to dedicate this bracelet to my mom. So I'm thinking for the pink, I want to think about a wish of good health for her, because I would think everybody right now we could be wishing for good health. So I'm going to be thinking about I wish for good health as I do the pink. So here I go. I'm going to start with my number 4, taking it on the outside. Over and over again, taking that color that's on the most right of your bracelet, going across on each of the strings, making a number 4. And as I go across, I'm going to think about good health for my mom. Okay, and then last 2. Each time you're doing 2 knots, just to make sure that the color is really present. Okay. And now for the blue, I'm thinking that I want to wish her joy. I want her to think about joy when she sees this bracelet. I want her to be reminded that there is going to be things positive going forward. So each time I do a blue knot, I'm going to think about bringing joy to my mom. So I'm going to make a number 4 going across. So again, taking it across, make that number 4, bring it through the hole. And by this point, I feel like a broken record. But that's all it is. You just keep doing that same thing over and over again. The hard part is remembering which string to be making the knots on. And that's why I like to keep them spread out like this, is I can remember which one I'm doing next, especially because I'm doing 2 of the same color. So it's very important that I keep it all spread out. So now you can really start to see that diagonal pattern forming, and this is going to be the width of my bracelet. And I really like that, but you can see the more colors you add, the thicker that's going to be. Okay, I'm going to speed it up now, and that will be the end of this bracelet. Alright, and with that, we wrap up our video on how to make your very own bracelets using upcycled materials. I really hope you enjoyed following along. And I would love to see the creations that you made. So please take a picture and share it with me and the rest of the team by sending us an email or tagging us on social media. And if you want to see even more of these videos by me and the team, don't forget to subscribe to the DAREarts YouTube channel. All right, and one more thing before you go. We're gonna do our DAREarts closing circle. Remember? So first, you gotta point at yourself and with confidence say, I am excellent. Then point to those around you and together say, we are excellent. And then put your hands in the middle with me together. And we're gonna say, we're leaders here. We are leaders at home. We are leaders online. And we are leaders in our community. And we're gonna take everything we learned here together in this video and we're gonna share it out with the world. All right, thank you again for watching. See you next time.